Hi, this is Nicholas Tutora, and welcome to Tutora Time. Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, who has been busy self-congratulating himself for the last year about his COVID response, turns out today he's under investigation. They're really looking into it because one of his aides, his top aides, admitted that Cuomo was cooking the books, hiding COVID deaths in order to avoid federal investigation or federal oversight and regulation of what he was doing.
And a new report out from New York's Attorney General confirms some of the most serious claims that have dogged Cuomo and his administration for months. The state's Department of Health undercounted the number of nursing home residents who died from coronavirus by as much as 50%, according to these findings from Democratic AG Letitia James.
So this hits me in a more personal way. My mother, Antoinette Tutora, passed away in Kings Harbor Nursing Home in New York City due to COVID-19. Cuomo ordered that COVID-positive patients were to be let into the nursing homes. He ordered that on March 25th of 2020, and on March 28th of 2020, my mother passed away in Kings Harbor Nursing Home, one of the nursing homes which Cuomo let COVID-positive patients into. My mother was 88 years old. She was suffering from Alzheimer's. So truthfully, every year I was always concerned that when winter came in New York and it got cold, that a flu, a virus, something would unfortunately take her life, which ended up happening. And right at the end of her life, my mother was put on a ventilator, which is very sad. They should have just let her pass naturally, but no, they put her on a ventilator. She didn't last more than a few hours on that. When I think of the pain of putting a ventilator into somebody who really doesn't know what's going on anymore, it really hurts in my heart quite a bit. Because of the COVID regulations in New York, she couldn't have a funeral. The wake was 10 minutes. Only a couple of people were able to go. COVID has really done so much damage to our society. It's the response that's been tremendously hurtful. However, Andrew Cuomo actually put people, COVID-positive patients, into her nursing home. He's out there congratulating himself for the last year, yucking it up with his brother on TV about what a fabulous guy he is and his COVID response and the big swab they need to swab his nose.
Is it true that this was the swab that the nurse was actually using on you, and that at first it went into your nose and disappeared, so that in scale, this was the actual swab that was being used to fit up that double-barrel shotgun that you have mounted on the front of your pretty face?
When Trump talks about the swamp, this is the kind of thing he's talking about. The level of callousness and hypocrisy when you think you're untouchable is really sickening. And the whole time, it's all been a show. Cuomo has really no idea of what he's doing. New York State is, I believe, the worst of any state in the country in terms of COVID deaths and COVID responses. So on one level, you know, people's lives, people grow old and they become vulnerable to illness. This is part of life. So on one level, that is a fact, and we can't change that. On the other hand, Cuomo was out there patting himself on the back, saying what a great job he did. The guy received an Emmy Award for his COVID pandemic response.
It is now my distinct pleasure to present the 2020 International Emmy Founders Award to Governor Andrew Cuomo.
What kind of person accepts an award for their handling, an Emmy Award for the handling of a pandemic? People are dying from the pandemic, whether you managed it correctly, incorrectly. People are dying, and you're out there accepting an award? It's obscene. He also released a book. He wrote a book.
He even wrote a book touting his leadership during the crisis.
Pausing during a COVID pandemic to write your book about how you handled COVID and the leadership that you showed during COVID. I mean, only the most narcissistic, self-absorbed person would do such a thing? Celebrities lined up to congratulate him and say what a great job he's doing, America's governor.
To my governor, Andrew Cuomo. Daily I was watching his press conferences, informing us, telling us what to do.
Congratulations, Andrew, on your much-deserved Founders Award.
Governor Andrew Cuomo, you are the man. What?
And so I called your brother Chris, who could not understand why you were getting an Emmy since he's the one on television.
In the darkest stage of the pandemic, your daily briefings live from New York gave us hope, gave us clarity, gave us the truth, and gave us something that we were not getting from Washington: leadership.
During the height of the pandemic, Donald Trump sent the Comfort, the ship, the Navy ship, the hospital ship, to New York City to handle the overflow of nursing homes and hospitals. But Cuomo didn't use that. Only a small fraction of those beds were used. And truthfully, looking back at it, it's probably because political reasons. He didn't want to show that he was mismanaging the situation and that he was relying on Donald Trump. They would do anything rather than give Trump credit. They'd actually rather let people die in nursing homes and in hospitals, which is what they did. 3 days after he made his executive order to send people into nursing homes, she passed away in a nursing home where he had sent COVID patients.
I thank the International Academy and Bruce Paisner for this incredible award. Thank you to all the members of the Academy.
And this man has just the biggest ego out there. So during the pandemic, while people are dying, while people are getting sick, Andrew Cuomo is concerned about raising his political capital by showing himself to be America's governor. And he did a lousy job. But it's been very hard for me to watch this guy be praised as some kind of great leader and whose judgment is so wise when his actual judgment led to the decision to let people in to the nursing home where my mother lived. And Kings Harbor Nursing Home in the Bronx, New York, just a little side note, my father passed away in 2016, and he was a building contractor. And during his life, he actually he was the contractor on the job who built Kings Harbor. Also with these Cuomos, who talks like these Cuomos with their over-enunciation? The Cuomos are constantly over-enunciating things. And Andrew Cuomo, at the same time as over-enunciating, talks like he's got a mouthful of, I'll leave it to you to fill in the blank. The guy's a buffoon. The guy's a joke. They've destroyed New York City. New York City, the response to COVID has destroyed New York City and also much of the country. The virus is real. My mom died of it. So I'm not going to say the virus is not real, but the response to it is completely political. As soon as the first impeachment of Donald Trump failed, they came up with COVID response. They put everybody on lockdown orders, closed businesses. You can't open your own private business because of COVID. Everybody's masked up. Now they want double masks on everybody. And this is all, whether there's evidence, whether there's no evidence, logic has really gone out the window. Fear has taken control in this COVID response. You know, one of my favorite movies from way back is North by Northwest by Alfred Hitchcock. And there's a line in there from Martin Landau has the line,
if you will. But I've never trusted neatness. Neatness is always the result of deliberate planning.
She shot him in a moment of fear and anger.
Yes, and thereby wrapped everything up into one very neat and tidy bundle.
The gun she shot Kaplan with, I found it in her luggage. It's an old Gestapo trick. Shoot one of your own people to show that you're not one of them. They've just freshened it up a bit with blank cartridges.
When Donald Trump goes into a re-election year and everything's humming, and as soon as the first impeachment is over, they immediately turn to COVID lockdowns in order to prevent political rallies, to destroy the economy, to force massive mail-in balloting. Because of COVID, they changed all the ballot regulations and changed all the rules to vote, and particularly in the 7 swing states that ended up swinging to Joe Biden: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. All of these states were affected by COVID and early voting. Arizona After the voter registration ended, they extended it, and it went on for another few weeks before a judge closed it down. And in those few weeks, they registered about 30,000 Democrats after the legal deadline originally, which was changed because of COVID, which really makes no sense at all, because you could register online and people were able to register since the last election. So people had 2 years to register. Why did they need that extra few weeks right there at the end to get more people registered? There's no risk. You don't have to register in person. There's no risk of COVID. I'll leave it to you to figure out why they did it.
But I've never trusted neatness. Neatness is always the result of deliberate planning.
But COVID was the pretext that was used for massive mail-in balloting, and they didn't save anybody who was vulnerable. Elderly people, frail people, unfortunately, they get sick. They're subject to illness. That's the nature of life, and that's the nature of being elderly. And I could say one other thing about my mom. She, in no way, would have wanted society, the lives of her children, her grandchildren, to be stripped away so she could live one more year with Alzheimer's. They are throwing away the future under the pretext of COVID. People get sick. It's a fact of life. However, what Andrew Cuomo did was quite different. He actively and knowingly sent COVID-positive patients into nursing homes throughout New York City, knowing that people would get sick. And my mom was one of those people. So we got to keep fighting back. We have to keep speaking out against this hypocrisy. Free speech will win the day. Stay in the fight, people. Don't give up. Well, I'm Nicholas Tutora, and I'll talk to you again on Tutora Time. Hi, everyone. It's Nicholas Tutora. Now more than ever, it's so important to keep free speech alive. So make sure you click the subscribe button so you can stay part of our conversation.